So after decades of failed attempts, we finally get the MCU's version of the Fantastic Four: First Steps. Yeah, like I said, this property has been adapted pretty much once a decade, almost exactly. Started in 1994 with a laughably bad version by Roger Corman. Then we got a reboot in 2005 that honestly wasn't that much better. And it got a sequel that was also just pretty mediocre and largely forgettable and was like half an hour long. And then in 2015, we got the infamous Fantastic Four, also known as Four Stick, because that's how it was stylized, and that's a good way to differentiate it from the 2005 movie. And it tried to go the dark, gritty route that a lot of other reboots did at the time, like Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and Man of Steel, and yeah, common themes that those movies are not very good. Honestly, I think the best of those was Power Rangers. But that was pretty much the final straw. We knew the next movie that the Fantastic Four got was going to be made by Marvel, and that was made official when Marvel bought Fox back in 2019. And how is it? Because this has been being built up for years. I believe this was announced back in 2022 during their Disney E3 thing, whatever the fuck it's called. And so this one's been being built up for a long time, especially because it took forever to actually get a cast together for it. And with a cameo by Reed Richards in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But how is this movie? It's actually pretty good. Who'd have thought? Fifth time's the charm. I know I put fourth on the thumbnail because it's the fourth franchise, but it's the fifth film, and they finally fucking got one right. Who'd have thunk it only took giving it to the MCU to get a good Fantastic Four movie? Now, I do have to mention something briefly here, is that there was apparently a lot cut from this movie. Like, in particular, one of the big things that was cut that was shown in the trailer was John Malkovich, who apparently, from my research, was going to be playing Red Ghost in this movie. I honestly have no idea what he was going to do in this movie. And that is something else that this movie went through reshoots just a few months ago. And I feel like people have a very skewered view of reshoots. And that is largely due to movies like Suicide Squad, The Rise of Skywalker, and, well, the last Fantastic Four movie we got. Because those movies went through extensive reshoots. Well, I guess technically Rise of Skywalker didn't go through reshoots, but that went through rewrites. So I still kind of put in the... Or I guess you could throw Dark Phoenix in there. That went through extensive reshoots. And was also garbage. So those were a lot of comic book movies that went through extensive reshoots because the studio couldn't stand what they saw. But it seems like with this movie, and with a lot of movies go through reshoots. Pretty much every movie goes through reshoots nowadays. And hell, Brave New World went through a bunch of reshoots as well. And hell, that one basically was like reshooting the whole movie almost, from what I've heard. But with movies like this, it seemed less like it wasn't because the studio didn't like what they saw. It was more they tried to go somewhere else with it, and the reshoots are done because they have to cut, because there were things they wanted to cut out. In particular, I guess they wanted to cut out Red Ghost because, again, I guess they just didn't have room for him in this movie, or maybe they wanted to save him for another film, I don't know. But either way, the reshoots are done to help the story flow better, because otherwise you're going to get a disorganized mess. And that's basically what we got with Suicide Squad. So, the movie itself, it's a very basic movie. Like, the story itself is not complicated at all, but I'm very much okay with that. I really like the story this movie tells. It's kind of like Rise of the Silver Surfer, except much better. And I mean that in every way. First off, the characters are so much more entertaining than they were in the other movies. And Johnny and Ben really steal the show here. Pedro Pascal wasn't as bad as Reed Richards as I thought he was going to be. I mean, I can't stand Pedro Pascal, but he did not tank the. He wasn't. It wasn't distracting. And Vanessa Kirby did pretty well as Sue Storm, but again, but especially Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, he really stole the movie. And I didn't mind the Silver Surfer they used in this. I would have preferred had they used Norrin Rad and actually, hell, maybe they'll bring him in at some point, I don't know. But the real big thing that they had to get right with this movie, and it wasn't very hard to get right, that Rise of the Silver Surfer still somehow fucked up, was Galactus. Now, Galactus, it's a very basic. The character is not hard, like I said, not hard to get right. Basically, he's a guy who devours planets just to survive. That's his whole motivation, and that's what it is in this film as well. And the whole conflict is that he will spare the Earth if Reed and Sue give him their son Franklin, who is basically an all-powerful cosmic being, and if he feasts on the child, basically, he should be sustained for, I guess, the rest of his life, or for a while. It's not really made clear whether it's forever or just for a while, but that's the basic. And that was shown in a TV spot where basically the deal was, give me your child and I will spare the Earth. I saw that in a TV spot like the day before I saw the movie. I saw this movie a few days ago, and yeah, I know I still haven't posted my Superman review, even though I saw that movie 2.5 weeks ago now. I'm really sorry about that. That will be posted tomorrow, I promise. But either way, I really like how they do Galactus, and I know one thing I really fucking hate that comic book fans bitch about constantly is nerfing characters for movies and TV shows. Like, you kind of have to, because in comic books you can make someone as powerful as you want, but in a movie, because especially when they're in like smaller doses, in a 2-hour movie, you kind of need to nerf the characters a bit so that there are stakes. If your hero is too powerful, like they did with Superman, like I'm okay with what they did with Superman because it allowed the movie to have stakes. And this, they did it with Galactus as well by basically tricking him into shrinking down. He was still big, like, in the city, like you saw in the trailers and everything, but he wasn't, like, towering over the Earth so that he could come and take Franklin, and it was set up as a trap. And I like how they don't kill Galactus here, is that they basically send him through a portal to somewhere else. And I knew the Silver Surfer was going to turn and help them. Even if you've never read a Fantastic Four comic book in your life, you know that's what's going to happen. And surprisingly, like I said, Johnny Storm really steals the show for me in this one. And my favorite scene is the one where he confronts the Silver Surfer. And after he's figured out parts of her language and languages from the other Earths that she has helped Galactus destroy. And that little confrontation that he has with her, that was easily my favorite scene in the movie. Now, I wouldn't say this movie's perfect. I think the special effects at times do look a little wonky. The Thing looks pretty damn good. I still think he looked the best in, ironically, the last movie. I know people make fun of him being naked and everything. That didn't bother me. I didn't care. But he looked actually pretty. He was one of the few effects that looked good in that movie. And then you compare that to Johnny Storm, who looked fucking awful in that movie. And he actually looked pretty good here. I do think it's weird they didn't have him use his flame on catchphrase. They had the "it's clobbering time" joke, of course, like you have in every movie. But they never had Johnny actually use his flame on catchphrase. And I know technically in the movies he doesn't always do it, but even the 2015 one had him say it once. If it at least said it once, I would have liked that. The stretching powers actually look pretty cool here. It's hard not to make that look silly. Like, it looked, like in the 2005 movie, it looked really cartoony. It looked comic accurate, but it looked weird in live action. Like, it didn't work for live action. 2015 tried to make it look more realistic, and I don't mind how they did it there. It looked alright. And here, once again, it's to a point of nerfing the character a bit, where it seems like he has limitations to just how far he can stretch, which I do kind of like. I like that he can't just, like, stretch infinitely like he can in the comics. He actually has limits. Like, all the characters have their limits in this movie. And I do like that. Again, it increases the stakes. I did find it weird that they had Herbie in this movie. I remember seeing the trailer and I thought, really? They brought him in, and it was fine. It wasn't like a Jar Jar Binks scenario where he takes up space and is really fucking annoying. He's perfectly fine. He actually he's not even in the movie that much. And he's mostly silent, too, so that was kind of a good thing. But the big thing for this movie that makes it work, that didn't make the other films work, is that the Fantastic Four, they're called Marvel's first family, and they actually feel like a family in this movie. They do kind of hammer it in a bit too hard in certain places, but it's done well. That's something that the other movies couldn't get right. Even the 2005 movie, they didn't feel like a family. They just felt like coworkers. I didn't, other than maybe Reed and Ben, like, their friendship's the only one I really bought. It doesn't help that Jessica Alba her acting wasn't great, although, from what I've heard, it seems like that was mainly Tim Story's fault, if you know what I'm talking about. And maybe I'll get into that in another video, but basically Alba blamed Story for her bad performance. I don't think there's too much else to talk about with this movie, because again, it's just solid. This is all fans have been wanting. This one is what the 2015 movie should have been. All the 2015 movie had to be was even remotely solid, and it couldn't even do that. It was trash. Many people even say it was worse than the Corman film. I don't think I can go that far, but yeah, this is what we've been wanting out of the Fantastic Four. So that's all I got for this. I'm going to give this an A, and I will see you all next time. Bye.